Awesome. Thank you, Megan. This is weird. I can't see anyone. This is my first time doing webinar format. So I'm just going to assume I'm just talking to Megan because she's so lovely. So hi, everyone. I'm Jenny. I'm the Executive Director of Mental Health Advocacy Services. Hi, Selena. So my first question or request of you all as you're joining is to put in the chat, if you were to have a 4-day work week, what do you imagine you might do with your time on the 5th day? Or if you currently have a 4-day work week, what do you do on day 5? So if you can think about that and put your answer in the chat and share with everyone, that would be great. So a couple of intros. I am giving you guys a really high level presentation on the 4-day work week. And I'm sure you are going to have very specific HR questions. I am ready to answer them as best I can for how things have worked at our organization. I don't really address a lot of that in the PowerPoint presentation I'm going to give first. This is going to keep it kind of high level. So I assume you will ask those questions during the Q&A. Megan and I chatted about like how to handle questions, and I said, however is best for people. So if you want to stop me and ask a question, feel free. If you want to save it till the end, feel free. You can put stuff in the chat or in the Q&A, and you can come off mute at the end if it's like a wonky question that is easier to ask audibly than via writing it out. And then the other intro point I'll say is that I definitely do not have all the answers. So the title of this presentation, Can It Work in Legal Aid, is not, yes, and Jenny will tell you how. It's, haha, I'm asking you all that. Can it work in legal aid? There are other organizations that have more of an active, more attorneys actively in court than we do at MHAS, who are currently trialing a 4-day work week. So I can put you in touch with them if you have questions about that specifically. I do have some thoughts about how do you do the 4-day work week with court. But I think my takeaway, hopefully, from this presentation will be like, it's worth trying and you have to figure out the answers for yourself. So if you want to leave now with that intro, I won't be offended. Okay, so let's get started. That's me, Jenny Farrell. About MHAS, you know I have to tell you our mission. There's so many of you. I need to tell you what we do. So we're mental health advocacy services. We go by MHAS. The mission of mental health advocacy services is to protect and advance the legal rights of low-income adults and children with mental health disabilities and empower them to assert those rights in order to maximize their autonomy, achieve equity, and secure the resources they need to thrive. And I very much think the 4-day work week is in line with this mission statement. Okay, so our partner in trialing last year and then implementing this year a 4-day work week is a nonprofit organization called 4-Day Week Global. There are actually multiple 4-day work week consultant organizations out there. This is the one that's based in New Zealand. And they're kind of the originators of it. So they, if you type into Google 4-Day Week Global, you'll see them. They have a blue logo. So their kind of mission, or what they do, is we encourage business, employees, researchers, and government to all play their part in creating a new way of working, which will improve business productivity, worker health outcomes, stronger families and communities, challenge the gender equality issue, and work towards a more sustainable work environment. So I'm going to assume that a lot of you have done some reading on the 4-day work week already. It's been all over the media. But, you know, just to summarize, the 4-day work week has been around for several years now. There was like a big trial at Microsoft in Japan like 4 years ago, where they moved from a 5-day work week to a 4-day, 32-hour work week. And their productivity, as they defined it, went up 40%. And following that trial, there's been various governments around the country, around the world, Iceland, Spain, New Zealand, that for specific sectors or for their whole government workforce have moved to a 4-day work week. And a lot of companies now have moved to a 4-day work week. And basically each time a company or a government office moves to a 4-day work week, they are setting their own metrics for like, what does productivity mean? And what kind of outputs were we producing in a 5-day week that we want to make sure we're still maintaining in a 4-day week? And the research is that like basically all of them who have published the results of their trial have maintained or increased their productivity moving to a 4-day work week. So they've done the same things that they did in 4 days that they did in 5 days. When MHOS participated in the US trial with 4-day week global last year, we were part of a cohort of companies and nonprofit organizations in the US and Canada. And then we were all put into like smaller cohorts. And I always tell the story that the smaller cohort that I was with was this like RV manufacturing company in Ohio, where like all the guys were named like Jimbo. Not really, but I think they were all named like Joe or Jim. They were really fun. And so they were tracking like how many RVs did they produce, moving their workforce to a 4-day work week from a 5-day work week. We were tracking how many clients did we serve. And both of us, as you'll see in the slides that follow, either maintained the same outputs or increased our outputs during our 6-month trial. So that's the business productivity thing. And then they have also evaluated worker health outcomes. And, you know, what do people do on those 5th days? Challenging the gender equality issue. You know, we, one of the ideas behind the 4-day work week and any flexible working arrangements, and I know I'm saying things that most of you already know and very much understand, is that, you know, there are a lot of people, like people who take care of children and people who take care of other dependents, and who, you know, a 9-to-5, 5-day a week traditional work week has never worked well for, and has never served well. And that is part of why, you know, we've never had a female president, for example. Like there is a correlation there between like the work hours and the other responsibilities that a lot of people have, particularly women and people of color. And that, so if you're really, you know, interested in really improving the professional careers of women and people of color and in improving their long-term career accomplishments, like giving them as much flexibility for different chapters of their lives is the way to like overall address the inequality that we still see in, you know, corporate America and political America and even nonprofit America to a certain extent. And then work towards a more sustainable work environment. This is definitely was more in play when more people were going to the office. So like just closing an office for a 5th day saved on like electricity at, you know, Microsoft Japan, and then not having people commute on the roads 1 day a week. If you have like a huge workforce not doing that, then the environmental, you know, gains there of the saved, you know, gas and putting pollutants into the air is noticeable. Now that a lot of people are working from home, I would say that's not like as big of a piece of the kind of argument for a 4-day work week, but certainly places that still have people coming in 5 days a week, the RV manufacturers, you know, saving their, reducing their environmental imprint by 1 day a week is still important. Okay. So 100 years ago, we moved from a 6-day week to a 5-day week. And basically the folks behind the 4-day work week model argue that we are long overdue for an update. We, you know, our world has changed dramatically in the last 100 years. There have been, you know, a few technology innovations. So it seems with all of this change, perhaps rethinking our traditional, what has been the traditional work week for about 100 years is due. So when I'm talking about a 4-day work week, I'm talking about 4 days as a 32-hour work week for the same pay and benefits. There are lots of places, especially a lot of government offices, that do like a 980 or 4 days, 10 hours a day to still be a 40-hour work week. That's not what 4-day week global is talking about. That's not what MHAS trialed and what we've implemented. It's an 8-hour a day for 4 days a week equals a 32-hour work week with no reduction in pay and benefits from what you were doing as a 5-day work week. And as I said, there's a lot of research out there. If you just Google 4-day work week, there are a lot of companies that have trialed this and posted their results for their productivity and the benefits for the employers. Okay, so yes, so great question. So basically the non-exempt staff, get a bump in their hourly pay. So they don't have any change in their annual pay, but we just, whatever their annual pay was divided by a 40-hour work week, we changed it so that, their pay rate went up like, I don't know, $1 an hour or whatever it is to make it so that they ended up the same with a 32-hour work week. Important to note that, like, I believe this is California law, that, overtime rules are not specific to your specific organization's work week. So like you still have a 40, you still don't accrue overtime, time and a half past 32 hours just because your particular company has, adopted a 32-hour work week. That's still 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week. So I'm just noting that we haven't particularly had a problem with our non-exempt employees, like, working more. And so that hasn't been an issue for us, but just want to bring that to everyone's attention. So during the trial, we did treat Fridays as a paid holiday. Aren't they getting paid more at the hourly rate plus the paid holiday? I don't know. No, they didn't experience any difference in what they took home on their paycheck every 2 weeks. We just made it the same. So, okay. All the questions are exactly the questions I anticipated. I think I'll keep going with my high-level presentation and then address those questions. Okay, so they have surveyed, 4-day week global has surveyed, and shockingly, 85% of US adults want to move to a 4-day work week. So if you're wondering, like, I don't know, do people really want this? Overall, the answer is yes. I know there are some people who don't, but the data is that it's about 85% would say that would be great. And so, yes, we have moved to a 4-day work week. It's 32 hours Monday through Thursday, and we are closed on Fridays. Okay. So who can a 4-day week help? Oh no, I made the chat big. Okay. These are my kids, Micah and Robbie at the zoo. So family, kids, and other dependents. These are my colleagues at a fun MHAS Halloween party back when we all worked in the office together and did fun things like that. Now we like go out to fancy lunches every now and again. Your neighborhood, so there's more time for you to get involved with, I don't know, like helping out around your community on that 5th day. That might be something that some people thought about doing. I certainly have found myself like helping, one of the girls in my neighborhood who is the first in her family to apply to colleges. I helped her with her college application process this past fall. I probably would have done that regardless of my work week, but I do feel like that there's, neighborhood and community benefits to a 4-day work week. And then the world, we talked a little bit about the environmental impact that can happen with a 4-day work week. Okay. So I just thought I'd share a little bit of my personal journey with the 4-day work week. So in April of 2014, there was a change of circumstances in my life that called the traditional work week into question. That change of circumstances was I had a baby. I was working at a private plaintiff side law firm, and I did my first night at the office till like 3 a.m. working on some opposition to a motion for summary judgment that somebody, forgot to calendar correctly, and with like a 4-month-old at home. And I was like, this is not sustainable. Question whether that ever really was sustainable, but it certainly was not sustainable once I had a 4-month-old. So I pretty much pushed myself to a 4-day work week and negotiated that for myself for all of my jobs after that. I was like, I'm going to be at home on Fridays with my baby and go to music class, and I'm just going to get my work done the other days. And all the jobs that I got since then, including my job at MHOS, were like, okay, that's fine. As long as you get your work done, that's fine. So, I got the benefits. I've been benefiting from a 4-day work week since 2014, but I didn't start. I just thought it was something that I personally negotiated for myself because of my needing that starting then. But then I did the One Justice program 2019 to 2020, and I did my capstone project actually on the research that was being published at that time about that like Microsoft Japan trial and some other companies that were starting to adopt a 4-day week. I was like, oh, this is a thing. Like other people are doing this as like a thing for their whole company. That's awesome. So I did that. And then in the fall of 2021, I brought the idea officially to the senior staff and the board at MHOS. And I showed them the research and said, we should trial this. In fact, there's this company called 4-Day Week Global that's organizing a trial of nonprofit organizations and companies in North America starting in April. And like, it's free for us to join into this trial, and we get all the benefits of like having the researchers work with us and analyze our metrics. And pitching a trial is a lot easier than pitching like, we're going to move to a 4-day work week. So I highly recommend trialing a 4-day work week first and being very methodical with how you track your deliverables and everything during that trial. There was really no pushback from everyone. Everyone was like, yeah, I can sign up for a trial. And, if it doesn't go well, then we'll go back to a 5-day work week. So that was fine. That was fine. So we started designing our trial with the folks at 4-Day Week Global. And then we were part of that North American trial that ran from April 1 to September 30th. We had researchers at Boston College that did a pre-trial survey for all of our employees, a midpoint survey, and an end survey. So you'll see the results of that survey in a couple slides. And then we, tracked our own metrics that we decided would be how we would be tracking productivity during that time. And so everything went the way we hoped. We either met or exceeded our productivity measures. The results of all the surveys were really positive. And so then we presented that research at the end of, October through December. We kind of evaluated the trial and then adopted a permanent 4-day work week starting January 1 of this year. So this is the kind of the way to move to a 4-day work week. So plan it, define your goals and your metrics, whatever that is. If you're an RV company, it might be how many RVs you manufacture. If you're a direct services organization like MHOS, it might be how many clients you serve. If you're a support center, it might be something else. But have some specific goals for the trial and metrics that you are going to hold yourself accountable to. And then market it. So communicate both internally and externally. And I think that Megan shared the blog posts that I wrote and posted, sent out to the MHOS list, our email newsletter. And look at that. Megan just puts it right in the chat as I'm talking about it. So yeah, if you go to that Dropbox link, there's the post that I did right on the eve of the trial in like March of 2021. That's like, this is what we are about to do. We're really excited about it. Here's our plan. And so I, sent that out to like all of our supporters and board and staff and everyone. And then at the end of the trial, I also did another kind of updated post to the broader public about how the trial worked. So then like I said, we designed and ran a pilot. I recommend a 6-month pilot. I think it's really hard to get. I think like a 3-month trial would just be hard, because the idea is you really want enough time to like have it be representative of your work as an organization. For us, like any period of 3 months could have some weird variables that like, oh, well, we ended up closing a bunch of cases right then, or we had summer law clerks during those 3 months, or, whatever that could skew things a little bit. So if you can do a full 6-month or even 12-month trial, I think that'll give you the best data to look at. And then evaluate how you're doing on your goals during the trial and at the end of the trial, and then launch and deploy your new official work week with updated policies. I am seeing these very good questions. I will do. Oh, look, Selena's already answering the questions for me. Thanks, Selena. Okay, so these were our goals and metrics. So our like 3 main goals. There's a couple more that you'll see in one of the materials that I put in the Dropbox link that was our trial productivity policy. But these, I would say, were like our 3 main goals, is like to improve productivity, which really means maintaining current output levels or increasing them, to improve the work-life balance of our staff, and to improve our staff retention and recruitment. And so the way we were tracking that was through a number of things, but so a number of things that the Boston College researchers were helping us track, like they were tracking like how many people we had on staff every month and things like that. They did all that for us. But then we were specifically tracking from our, from Legal Server, our case management system, the number of matters that we closed monthly, and also the number of matters we closed monthly that required extensive services. So for the legal aid, the IOLTA, direct services organizations, cases that are coded F through I or L for us. And then we were also keeping an eye on our bottom line financial position. Did it cause us to lose money, either private grants or any public grants? I will say we also were keeping an eye on the demographics of the clients we served. So did we experience any so we were looking at the 6 months, April 1 through September 30th of 2021 for all those things, and then April 1 through September 30th of 2022 for all those things. And I will say we were also looking at the demographics of our clients served, just seeing if there was any change in who we were serving with a 4-day work week. These were our ground rules for our trial. We wanted to make sure we were grounded in accountability. So we said, we said out loud what our metrics were and how, and we said basically we're not going to continue this if we don't meet these metrics, and tracked them. We wanted the trial, and so I would say these ground rules are what we stated before the trial, but now they're just kind of like our ongoing ground rules for having a 4-day work week. So we want it to be seamless for stakeholders. We don't want anyone to notice any major difference in like the quality of the work we're providing or, our availability, basically. I am at a small organization where we can be pretty flexible. So like our attorneys still, if there's like a hearing on a Friday that they have to go to, they still go to it. And then if they, want to take like some time off the following week on Tuesday afternoon because they, spent time Friday morning, they can. We don't have comp time at our organization for exempt employees. So it's a lot more flexible and less like, oh, well, those 2 hours beyond the 32 hours, you have to make up, some other time. Like it's more of a kind of get your work done vibe at MHAS. And I know that that is harder to implement at a larger organization, but I wouldn't say that should be a deterrent from trying it. I acknowledge that we have it easy. But yeah, we don't want our clients, our partners, and our funders should not basically notice any major differences in like who MHAS is, how we respond to needs, how we respond to emergencies. And, MHAS just doesn't do a lot of in-court representation. So that is like a difference for us compared to somebody that's got a lot of attorneys in court on Fridays or on Mondays or whatever your 4-day work week is that you go for. So you're going to have to figure that out. But, people have been figuring that out for a long time. When people work part-time, there are attorneys who work part-time. There are attorneys who job share with somebody else to cover, a certain day. So I think there are strategies to deal with that. So yeah, flexibility, we'll learn as we go. And we may sometimes need to work more than 32 hours a week. Yes, I do work more than 32 hours a week often, but not like all the time, I would say. We will be open about challenges and talk about them. And yeah, professional responsibility, especially for your exempt staff, your, licensed attorneys, they have their own ethical obligations and professional obligations to clients. They can't just like leave someone hanging just because it's Friday if there's like a true emergency. So everyone signed up for this. Like we actually had our staff like read through these policies and like agree that these were like, this is what we're all going to agree to like trial this 4-day work week and like adopt it. Okay, so here's our fun results of our trial. So we experienced so again, this is comparing the same 6 months in 2021 to the 6 months in 2022. So we experienced an overall increase in total earned revenue. Of course, that's not because of the 4-day work week. It's because all this other government funding has been flowing quite nicely the last couple of years, but it was still important for us to keep an eye on that and make sure we weren't like losing money having a 4-day work week. We did also have an increase in full-time employees. So we were an organization of just 12 full-time employees in 2021. We moved to 16 in 2022. Now we're at 22. We moved from 8 to 10 direct service attorneys. This was kind of interesting. We looked at the years of experience per attorney, and that also went slightly up. Now, obviously, there were some of that is because some of the attorneys in 2021 were 1 year more experienced in 2022. But I also do think I do a lot of the recruitment for MHAS that we attracted more experienced attorneys. Advertising a 4-day work week. So we tend to have, I feel like our attorney staff just tends to be more experienced now. And I haven't run this number for what it is now in 2023, but I think it's closer to about 6 years now. And then, so these were the metrics we had established that, we would track was like, how many people did we serve, total cases closed. So that went up. So we actually closed more cases with a 4-day work week than we had with a 5-day work week. Although those of you who have, any degree of any amount of looking at data a bit more sophisticatedly will recognize that like, well, of course your total cases closed went up. You had more people, more attorneys, but even per direct services attorney, we had a 3% increase in cases closed. And this was really interesting. Our extensive services cases closed went way up, which I do partly attribute to that, like having more senior attorneys who were able to provide more extensive services. There was also some change in some programs that were focusing more on extensive services in 2022, but I was pleased to see that. So yeah, all greens, all positives, moving to a 4-day work week for MHAS. So those were kind of the quantifiable metrics. These are also quantifiable metrics. So we did, as I said, we worked with these researchers at Boston College who administered these they asked everyone on staff to fill out this survey about like themselves and their life and their families and their health and their sleep habits and exercise habits and everything under the sun before we started the trial. So like March of 2022. And then they sent it again after having worked a 4-day work week for 6 months. And this is the results. So the gray is where people, so it was on a scale of 0 to 4, or it may be that some of these were like, like there were 5 option choices, like bad, sort of bad, okay, good, very good, something like that. But you can see, for physical health, mental health, work-family balance, work-life balance, and exercise, everyone's score, or the employee score as a whole, improved. I don't know about whether every individual's score improved, but overall, the averages went up. Work intensity, I would say, is kind of like the one, I don't know if you'd call it a drawback, but like an acknowledgement and a caveat to all this is that it is hard to put 5 days of work into 4 days. So people did rate their intensity of work slightly higher. So it's like, I don't know, a 2.8 to a 3.1 or something. And then, they asked us about like our overall satisfaction with our lives and satisfaction with relationships. And that was on a scale of 0 to 8. And that also went up. And then, I just pulled out this time spent exercising because I just thought it was really interesting. I definitely would have ruined the curve for that because I don't really exercise. But apparently, people got up to, I think this is like 200 minutes per week. So what is that? Like over 3 hours per week? Good job, MHAS employees. That's a little bit about that. Okay, so productivity hacks. So how do you do 5 days worth of work in 4 days and still maintain the same outputs? So the main thing to understand is that your work will expand to fill the space you give it. So you see these 2 suitcases. I just went on a trip last week and I can attest to this. If you make yourself use the smaller suitcase, you will fit everything into the smaller suitcase. If you give yourself the big roomy suitcase, guess what? You're going to pack that thing too. So that's kind of the analogy here is that if you give yourself a 4-day work week, you're just going to have to pack everything into that 4 days. You're just not going to have that extra space. So here are some things that, we did some training around quote unquote productivity hacks with 4-Day Week Global while we were doing the trial. So these were some suggestions they gave us, like set up no meeting days, designate specific times to answer email, plan your day ahead of time, schedule your day and focus on those tasks, assign time goals to your tasks, do your work, not other people's work. It's a really important one. Prioritize your to-do list, outsource smaller tasks, and default. If you're setting a meeting, don't just default to like, I'm sure it's an hour. Like really think about it. Is that really an hour meeting? Maybe it's like a 40-minute meeting or a 30-minute meeting. So these are all ways to just sort of take a scalpel to your work week and your job and be like, okay, I can cut this here. I can cut this here. I can cut this here, and get everything down to 32 hours. I will say, I'll add to this, just not signing up for things like lack training on a 4-day work week. I'm glad you're all here. I think this is very worth your time, but I'm someone who signs up for everything. Every topic is interesting to me. I get a thing that's learn about, I don't know, mental health, this cool mental health trial that they did in Wisconsin with, therapy dogs or whatever. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I really want to hear about that. But I can't go to all those things. If I just went to all those things, I would never get any work done. So, you just have to be a bit more discerning with what you're going to spend your time on, I would say. Yes, this is a honey badger. I don't know if I'm dating myself here, but there was a very popular video with voiceover of a honey badger several years ago on the interwebs. That's basically like, honey badger doesn't give a. So you kind of have to be a honey badger if you're going to implement a 4-day work week. So yeah, I say ask for forgiveness, not permission. So let's talk about the funders. So here was my plan. My plan was, okay, let's look at all of our contracts and see if any of them actually specifically prohibit us from doing a 32-hour work. Is there someone that says, you, by accepting this money, are agreeing to, see clients on Fridays or be open, Of all of our funding sources and grants, we only had one that actually had that in writing. And so I did go to that funder and said, hey, we want to trial this 4-day work week. Here's why. Here's the link to the research. We're promising to still maintain our same deliverables that we agreed to on this grant and on this contract. Like, is that cool? And they were like, okay, yeah, sure. Or I may have even said, so that's what we're doing. Let me know if that's a problem. And it wasn't a problem. They were like, sure, that's fine. And now, ever since then, so I never went to every single funder and was like, is this okay if we do this? If there's something in writing that would go against it, I clarified that. And now moving forward, we get a federal grant from HUD, or all of our grants, we just very clearly say on our budget, especially if you have the lines for, non-exempt employees and what their hourly rate is, it's this is based on a 32-hour work week. When we send in timesheets with invoices for grants, it very clearly says on the bottom, based on a 32-hour work week. So we're very explicit and upfront about it when it comes up, but I didn't go around and ask for everyone's permission to do it. Different people have different levels of risk tolerance, so you can, decide how you want to approach it, but it has worked out so far for us. And then, yeah, the other things are just if you're here, it's because you really do think that work-life balance, or whatever you want to call it, is important. You do have to model it yourself. You have to embrace the uncertainty that always comes with trying any sort of new initiative. You're not going to be able to figure it all out. You're not going to have every answer to every HR question at the beginning. We were figuring it out as we did the trial, and that was fine. And don't sweat the small stuff. It's all small stuff. So that's the 4-day week mindset. Thank you. Great. So it's 12:38. So now I get to answer all your specific questions about, well, what do you do on your timesheets and how do you do vacation, blah, blah, blah. Because I know all those are coming and are probably in the chat. So I will just go. I see a lot of questions in the chat, so I'll just take them one at a time. But I will say, please feel free to raise your hand if there's something more wonky that's hard to write in the chat, and just come off mute and ask it. And Megan will help monitor that. Okay, so I'm scrolling through the intros of what people said they would do during a 5th day. Okay. So the first question I come to is how do you handle this for non-exempt staff? I hope I answered that, but if I didn't, Gail, just tell me I didn't. Did you accelerate any benefits accrual, paid time off, sick, to accrue faster? So no, we didn't touch any of our accrual. So our let's see here. So I would say we're still considering reducing vacation time in light of having adopted a 4-day work week, paying people out and reducing the cap. It's something we probably should have done a long time ago. And now that we have a 4-day work week, it's time. So we basically didn't touch any of that though. So for us, our employees in their first year accrue 1 day a month vacation, 12 days a year. In their second year, they accrue 1.25 days a month or 15 days a year. Third year, 1.5 days a month, 18 days a year. And then fourth year and beyond, 1 2/3 day a month, or 20 days a year. And we cap it at 40 days. And then employees accrue 1 sick day a month, always. Well, we do have a big chunk of vacation liability on our books that bothers, me and the CFO and the auditors. So my goal is to address that at some point. Okay. Did you accelerate? If you treat Fridays as a paid holiday, aren't they getting paid? I think I addressed that. How do you address grant deliverables? Were you able to work with funders to decrease deliverables while maintaining the same level of funding? So, like I said, in this presentation, what you saw was that we actually maintained the same deliverables in a 4-day work week as we had the prior year in a 5-day work week. That said, I am definitely a proponent of like putting as little as possible. Like I try and get away with like some pretty low deliverables. I will tell you all, I'm like, really? I mean, that HUD grant that we get has been $125,000 a year, like since the beginning of time. I think it's been that same amount for like, I don't know, 25 or 30 years. It's ridiculous. So every year that I apply, I like shave off, and that's an education and outreach grant. I like shave off a couple of like, there's like a number of trainings we do per year and a number of like technical assistance clients served. And I just like keep shaving off some every year. And I was doing that regardless of the 4-day work week, just because like that amount of money doesn't go as far every year. So yeah, I don't think I like really actively decreased any deliverables because of the 4-day work week, like during the trial or anything, but like with every new application, I just like try and I go on the lower end. Yeah. So now we just have like a 32-hour 4-day work week. Like on our timesheets, literally Fridays are like shaded out gray, the way that like we still have an Excel spreadsheet timesheet. And Fridays are shaded gray, the way that like when, Monday, Memorial Day is shaded gray. So it's like, but you can still write in if you worked on that Friday or Saturday or Sunday. We also have a column for Saturday, Sunday. So people can still record their time. Exempt employees, it doesn't matter that they worked more, but they can still show us that they did. Should I ask the question I submitted in Q&A in the chat? Ooh, there's a Q&A question. Let's look at that. Okay, have you had to have any discussions with funders about making this change? If so, what did that look like? No, not really. Well, one person, I told them this is what we were doing, and they said that's fine. Okay. Our attorneys often have court. Yeah. And the schedule varies. How do attorneys manage the court schedules? Yeah, I'm sorry. We don't go to court that much. So I don't have a lot of like, we do a little bit of like administrative hearing representation for like Social Security benefit, appeals. So we just, it's so infrequent for us to have one of those on a Friday that people just do them and just make it up. Or if for some reason they really can't do it, then someone else covers. I know Jenny will answer that. Oh, I hope I did. Okay. Can you share the metrics? I did. Okay. Do you mind sharing how often you communicated internally about the 4-day work week with all staff and with managers? We communicated very regularly with all staff and with managers. I mean, I think once the management team decided we wanted to participate in the trial, it was like on the agenda for like, our managers meet every 2 weeks. And I think it was on that agenda for that meeting, like each of those meetings for, the 3 or 4 months ahead of the trial, as we were like writing the trial productivity policy and figuring out what would happen on a Friday if the client had an emergency, and figuring out how to approach the funders and all that. And then, yeah, I mean, I think once we decided we were going to do the trial, I mean, I think there were some conversations that happened with the management and the board before the full staff knew that we were going to do the trial. So we waited until like we had decided like, yes, we are going to do this trial. And then I announced it at a staff meeting and followed it up with an all staff email. Did you attempt to track work quality as well? Harder to track, so curious. Yeah, you know, I agree that that's hard. I don't have any good metrics for that, but I mean, we were constantly evaluating and talking about like, how is this going? Are we doing okay? Are we still like serving our clients well? Are we still meeting the needs? And nobody, I mean, I just didn't see nothing bubbled up to me that was like, wow, the quality of work has really decreased. And in fact, like the fact that we were also tracking extensive services, I mean, you could do like, low quality extensive services, but you know, for us, like I felt like our services deepened in those 6 months during the 4-day work week trial, which was interesting. Okay, do you operate with some sort of core business hours or allow asynchronous work or a combo? Our core business hours are 9 to 5, Monday through Thursday. If people want to work beyond that, they can. Yep. Have you had to have any? Yep. Thanks, Selena. Yeah, thanks, Selena. Okay, Amy says, oh yeah, if anyone on the call has had a 4-day work week, or if any of my awesome MHOS colleagues are on the call and want to either come off mute and like share how it's been for you, or put in the chat how it's been for you. I think everyone would love to hear from you. So Amy, thank you for sharing. Oh God, payroll software. Yeah. Yeah. I will just say yes, we're just now switching to Paycor and it's been challenging. It's not we're going to figure it out, but we're still on our like own spreadsheets where we can manipulate things however we want. But once we go to Paycor, yeah, it's going to be challenging. What are your thoughts about having different 4-day schedules for staff to meet client case needs? I think it's a great idea. I think some of the organizations that are currently trialing a 4-day work week have like half their staff Monday through Thursday and half their staff Tuesday through Friday, so that they still have full office coverage Monday through Friday. And I think that's a great way to meet those needs. Would you please share them again or send them out by email? Okay. If non-exempt staff, hourly staff, work on Fridays, are they paid overtime or straight time? Straight time. Unless they go over 8 hours a day or 40 hours a week. How long did you give staff to share their feedback? As in a week, or was it during a meeting? Thank you so much for your guidance on this. So the staff responded to 3 surveys during the 6-month trial. There was one right before, like a big survey, and there were big open-ended questions as well about like concerns you have or things that are going well, things that are not going well, in addition to the like, how many minutes per week are you exercising questions. So there were multiple opportunities for staff to share feedback. You know, we're a pretty like communicative office, I would say. So folks had a chance to share feedback with, you know, one-on-one with their supervisors during their weekly meetings with their supervisors. And I was constantly asking the staff, like, is this working? And yeah, shockingly, nobody was like, no, this is terrible. I want to go back to working 40 hours a week. Oh, the Dropbox stuff. Okay. I'm sure Megan is handling that. How hands-on and helpful was 4-day week global? Excellent question. They're cute. They're from New Zealand, which is like my favorite country that I've never been to, but I don't know. I was really a big fan of Jacinda Ardern, but then she quit because work was a lot. So I would say it was really helpful for them to administer these anonymous, very well put together surveys, because it's just a lot of work to like administer your own surveys. And it was cool to like have that data put together by somebody else. But ultimately, like, you have to figure out, you know, they'll consult with you on all the HR questions and messaging and everything, and they have all the research. So they're a great resource. We got all of it for free, which they don't do anymore. Like, we were the guinea pigs. We got it all for free. Now, if you sign up for one of their trials, there's like a sliding scale for how big your organization is and what your budget size is. And they will charge you like in the thousands of dollars to have access to their researchers and consultants. But I like them. I think it's a good community. And I think it's fascinating to hear about what people are doing in different parts of the world too. So it's just like intellectually interesting to me. Okay. Can the survey tool? Yeah. See, I don't know that they'll share that full survey. I will ask them if they will share that full survey. It is, and it may be posted online somewhere. If you Google 4-Day Week Global, but there's a much larger report than what I just showed you that is publicly available. I don't know that it has in the appendix like the entire exact survey questions, but you can kind of see from the report what they were asking about. And I will ask them if the survey is publicly available. And if so, I'll send it to Megan and she can upload it to the Dropbox. Ask for survey. All right, 1252. An argument to be made that extra time could reduce workplace injury. Oh, yeah, I agree. Is MHOS in person or remote? Mostly remote. So most of our attorneys are assigned to a community mental health center that they do some sort of like behavioral health legal partnership with. So a lot of them go out like into the field at one of these partner sites 1 day a week, but that's the only in-person work that they're doing. And then they just work from home the rest of the time. We have some admin staff that are in the office. Remind me if you already said something, but is 32 hours a week still enough to be Oh, I didn't say anything about healthcare. Thank you for asking. Yeah, so we work with Kaiser and Blue Shield, and they have an interesting rule that you have to decide what qualifies to get healthcare benefits at your organization, and it has to be either 30 hours a week or 20 hours a week. You can pick one of those two. It's not a percentage of whatever your individual work week is. So it's not like 75% of a 32-hour work week or a 40-hour. It's just flat 30 hours or 20 hours. So we picked 30 hours. So for us, employees have to work 30 hours a week to qualify for healthcare. And then we pay 100% of employees' healthcare and 50% of any dependent healthcare. How do you address employees' initial concerns that their current workload won't be manageable unless they work the 40 hours? I show them the honey badger. Yeah, no, it's like, I don't think those concerns outweighed the excitement about it. So, yeah, I mean, I think we're pretty good at like checking in with people on, I don't know if there are any MHOS attorneys on the call, they can chime in on the chat to answer this, or feel free to raise your hand. But I think we're pretty good about checking in with people and making sure their workloads are still manageable. And again, it goes back to that grant application phase. Like, what are you committing your attorneys to in the grant application? Are you committing them to like each of them, you know, serving, 100 people a year or whatever? Yeah, we didn't have a lot of initial concerns, honestly. And then like I said, we did some training around calendaring and productivity hacks and things like that. Okay, there's a question in the Q&A. No, we are not unionized. But I know some of the organizations that are currently trialing a 4-day work week are, and so I'd be happy to put you in touch with them if you want. Hopefully they'll be doing a presentation like this a year from now about how their trial went. Okay. Do you also do an end of year office closure? We do. We are closed between Christmas and New Year's. How many paid holidays does the organization recognize? Oh man, you're gonna make me pull that up. I don't know, Gail, the normal number. Whatever the normal number is. I'm sure I have it. I can follow up on an answer to that. Have you received pushback regarding the intensity metric going up? No. But I think it's worth acknowledging, you know, and I mean, I published that metric because I wanted people to see it's not all roses. But I think people just on the whole, when we analyzed it and talked to the staff, it was like, well, the pluses outweigh the minuses. So we're still going to do it. Does anyone stagger days off between Mondays and Fridays to maintain court schedules? We don't. But if there is like a hearing or something on Friday, then yes, people have done that on like an as needed basis, but we don't have like a permanent, no one is, we haven't done that regularly. We haven't needed to do that regularly. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Thank you, Selena. Yep. Yep. People are responding. Will the recording be emailed after? I don't know. If your core business hour, Gail with the questions. What? Come on, Gail. I knew she'd be the hard one. If your core business hours are 9 to 5, do your non-exempt staff have a paid hour lunch or paid half-hour lunch, i.e. they're only working 7.5 or 7 hours? Correct. We pay for a half-hour lunch. So our hourly employees work 9 to 5, which includes a paid half-hour lunch. If it was going to fail, or if you were going to consider it a failure, where was that going to be? What issues were the ones you worried might torpedo this for your org? Yes, I love this question. I mean, I would say if we didn't meet the deliverable numbers, if we didn't maintain those outputs, if all those were red instead of green, then we would go back to a 5-day work week and be like, well, we clearly we're not able to do this way right now. So what does that mean? So are we going to try and reduce our deliverables, or did we not give the staff, did we not give the system enough skills to be able to maintain it? So those are questions that you all are going to have to answer, because I never got to that point. So I didn't have to answer that question. But yeah, I mean, I think it's very easy to sell your board or a funder or your average donor on a 4-day work week if you're saying we're still doing the same amount of work, we're still serving the same number of people. That's like, okay, fine, do whatever you want then. So it's a very easy sell. And I think it is going to be harder if someone wants to say, no, we want to reduce our we're going to do this model is like, they call it 100, 80, 100, 100% of the work in 80% of the time with 100% of the pay. If you are proposing 80% of the work, 80% of the time, 100% of the pay, that's a different thing you're talking about. And you're going to have to, make that case, and you can pull on, you can say, no, the recruitment and retention and the wellness and the everything else is so beneficial that, we got to do this. Oh yeah, we don't have openings that last very long at MHOS. I should say that, like, it's been real good for recruitment and retention. Like, we don't have any current openings. I mean, we're only a staff of 23, so we're not like a staff of 200 that always has, 10 openings or 20 openings, but still, it's been great. Did you collect any data on how many attorneys wound up working over 32 hours of work regularly? I asked people to fill that in. We actually said, oh, it's 1 o'clock. We're gonna have to go, but I'll stay on for anyone who wants to stay on. But thank you guys so much. I put my email on there. Feel free to email me anytime. I'm happy to have more one-on-one conversations with folks about how this could work at their specific organization, or put you in touch with the folks at 4-Day Week Global that I worked with. So yeah, thank you. And I will stay on to keep going through questions if Megan lets me. Okay. Did you collect any data on how many attorneys wound up working over 32 hours a week regularly? We sent out we had a survey, an open like Google Forms that was like, hey, if you work on a Friday, fill this out. We want to track how much work is happening on Fridays. We have one employee who works way too much, and that's a problem, and we're trying to deal with it. But everyone else did a pretty good job of sticking to the 32 hours a week. At least they didn't say they were working Fridays on that Google form that we had. And we also have, you can write in extra hours on Fridays or Saturdays or Sundays on your timesheet. And I do see it occasionally, for sure. But it's not a situation where like all the managing attorneys were working 40 hours a week every week. That's not what's happening. I mean, not according to the paperwork. And I don't know why they wouldn't put that, since, we have an opportunity to put that if that's what's happening. Did you see pushback from staff who were worried about serving less clients? No, not really. I think they were excited to be, fueling themselves and taking care of themselves. I mean, working with clients with mental health disabilities, working with low-income clients, doing legal aid work is challenging. We all know that. There are additional challenging behaviors that folks with mental illness present. And so, to be able to refuel yourself and be able to serve those clients well in those 32 hours a week that you are working with them, I think that benefit, was the benefit. And like I said, like I keep going back to, we actually did serve the same number of clients. So we didn't serve less clients. We definitely have it ingrained in our society that working more equals quality or more valuable, 100%. Is there a difference in level of support / enthusiasm for the 4-day work week between support staff and attorneys? No, I would say there is an equal level of support and enthusiasm across our organization for us. Okay, now I'm just seeing a lot of thank yous. Can you please? Oh, can you please write your 180-100 model here? Sorry, I missed it. I don't know if this person wants me to write it in the chat, but let me just, I don't think that's going to be helpful. The chat, I don't think the chat will be gone, but it's 100% of the work in 80% of the time, i.e. 4 days instead of 5 days, for 100% of the pay. So you don't dock people's pay at all when you move to a 4-day work week. That's the model. Okay. And then Megan did a sign off. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, one more question. Wondering about the impact of the increased work intensity on working parents. Assuming survey indicates it wasn't a problem, just want to check. I would say that parents are definitely among the constituents. If you look at the research that they publicize about the whole North American trial or any of the other trials, like working parents is like the group that's most grateful for any sort of flexible work schedule, whether it's working 6 hours a day for 5 days or 4 days instead of 5 days. You just need that time with, to take care of all the things that being a working parent needs. So I think working parents tend to work pretty intensely. I'm speaking as a working parent. It's like, I got to get all this done before. I remember when I was at the office, it was like, you have to get your work done before like the daycare center closes. Like, you will be the last parent picking up your child. You do not want your child like sitting in the office, right? So I think working parents are like used to working very intensely with like strict, like, gotta sign off to go pick up your kid at daycare before they close and start charging like $10 an extra minute or whatever ridiculousness they do. Did this help or hurt urgency culture? Funny, because I was just doing like urgency culture. I don't know that I really know what urgency culture. I'm not sure I'm super familiar with that phrase, but I'm assuming it's like everything must happen now. And I would say it helps with that the bigger picture is that we were communicating to our employees and to our partners and funders that like work isn't the end all be all. That's really what the 4-day work week is saying, right? We're saying like, oh, we're going to take some of our time back. So I think on a big picture level, anything you do to cut away at, how much you're working sends a message that not everything is urgent. There are other things that are important in life. That said, Thursday afternoons do tend to be a bit of you see a lot of email activity, people trying to wrap things up before, before Thursday ends. Your email bounced back for me. Oh my gosh, what? jfarrell@mhas-la.org. That should be my email address. Did you do 2 R's and 2 L's? I don't know. I think that's my email address, but Megan has my email if it's wrong.
I dropped it in the chat. It's the same. It looks like the person who inquired got it. So
excellent.
Good to go.
Excellent. Okay. I think I answered all the questions in the chat. Thank you again, everyone.